Is going on now over in Ukraine and Russia, because there's incredible dashcam footage that has come out of the moments that alleged Ukrainian artillery fire hit cars travelling on a road overnight in the Russian city of Belgorod. In the video, the thump of an explosion can be heard as an oncoming car bursts into flames, leaving the wreckage strewn across the road. Another impact then occurs directly to the right of the camera, leaving smoke and debris spewing across the windscreen before the driver takes evasive action and then speeds away. Now, the local governor of Belgorod said the attack killed 5 people, injured 46 others. 37 of the injured, included 7 children, were taken to hospitals in the city. Russia's foreign ministry condemned the strikes as a brutal terrorist attack and has asked the international community to distance itself from the Kiev regime. Belgorod is 25 miles away from the Ukrainian border and has come under increased attacks since Ukraine began their cross-border assault on the neighbouring Kursk region on August the 6th. Both Ukraine and Russia say they don't deliberately target civilians. Well, what's going on here? Let's speak now to Cormac Smith, who was former communication advisor to the Foreign Minister of Ukraine, Pavlo Klimkin. That was between 2016 and 2018. Cormac, it's great to have you back on the programme. Is this going to play into Putin's hands as he tries to muster up support for his illegal invasion, talking about the denazification of Ukraine, that he's now saying that they're terrorists and the international community should distance itself from the Kiev regime? Do we know that this was Ukraine who did this attack? And if so, why? What's the strategy behind it?
Alex, hello. It is nice to join you on this lovely Sunday. Look, a few things to say. And before coming on, I spoke to a number of sources in Kyiv and also a military source here in the UK. We all think this just doesn't add up. So this is dash cam footage, and I've got to say, you know, there are literally hundreds of pieces of footage like this coming out each day. I don't believe this has been, I've been able to find any backup source. I don't believe it's been geolocated. So there is no evidence whatsoever to suggest that this is Ukrainian shelling. And to put this in context, we know, you said before that both Russian and Ukrainians deny that they target civilians. Well, we know that Russia has been targeting civilian targets with high precision weapons for the last 31 months. Indeed, just less than 2 days ago in Kharkiv, over 7 people, well, 7 people is the latest count, have died and over 77 injured. And just before I came on, a close friend in Kyiv said that Kharkiv has been hit again today, at least 10 strikes with multiple injuries. So we absolutely know, regardless of what Russia says, that they do target civilians. Ukraine, on the other hand, has made very clear that it does not target civilians. And this is a point it reiterated when it went into the recent Kursk offensive, where indeed they are coming into contact with Russian civilians. So I am hugely dubious of this. It smacks to me initially, until we have more information, of either disinformation or indeed a false flag operation by the Russians.
Right, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next question to you. Because what we have seen since August the 6th is the Ukrainians rather taking the initiative by going into Russia, incursions into the Kursk region, and putting Russia on a bit of a back foot, making it very difficult for Putin to continue to justify his regime and his approach to his own people, but stretching their resources, perhaps giving Ukraine a bit of a brokering when it comes to any sort of deal or response that could be down the line. This putting Russia on a back foot. You know, people often say that Putin can be like a cornered rat. When he suddenly finds himself on the defensive, doesn't he lash out? Is there a risk here that this is a false flag and this is going to potentially be used as his justification to hit back twice as hard? And when I say that, could we be looking at Belarus entering this war? Because we've seen a huge amassing of their soldiers and their tanks and so on and so forth along the border of Ukraine. Could things begin to take a pretty nasty turn for the worst?
Alex, can I say 2 things? Can I address Putin being put on the back foot first? Yes, he will escalate in every way that he can, and I and many military and diplomatic minds far smarter and more experienced than myself believe, along with me, he will not resort to nuclear weapons. What Putin does have particular form for, and the Kremlin has form for, is massive disinformation. The minister I worked for used to say that Russia lies on an industrial scale. Talking about false flags, of course, the most notorious false flag was back in 1999, the apartment bombs in Moscow and St. Petersburg, where Putin's security services, it's believed, murdered over 1,000 Russian citizens, blamed it on Chechen separatists as a pretext to begin the Second Chechen War, and we know from history what happened after that. So this is absolutely something which Putin and the Kremlin have form on. I personally have been expecting more disinformation and more false flags since the Kursk invasion began, because it has put Putin under huge pressure. It has brought the war home to the Russian people, who expect their little Tsar to protect them. And what's been proven as the Ukrainians take more and more land day by day in the Kursk and Belgorod regions is that Putin is not able to protect his people. He's not able to fight on more than two fronts. There's a massive battle going on in the Donbass as well. Putin doesn't seem to have taken forces away from there to reinforce the Kursk region. So that's the first point. The second point that you asked me was on the threat of Belarus coming into the war. I do not believe this will happen, and for a number of reasons. One, Lukashenko came out 2 days ago and said that his soldiers would not fight, that they would only fight on Belarusian soil, that they would not be invading any other country. I need to remind viewers that the Belarus army is relatively tiny. They have about 15,000 soldiers. Also, although I don't believe, and I know many Belarusians who have been involved in the freedom struggle over the last 10 to 15 years, Lukashenko does not have as strong a grip on his people as Putin does, and you see constant evidence of people protesting in Belarus. So I do not believe, and this is the belief of other people that I speak to, that that Belarus will enter the war on Putin's side, much as Putin would like it to. I do not believe they will do that, because I think that could see the end of Lukashenko, because I don't think he has that strong a control over either his people or his army.
Well, that is some relief to hear. Thank you ever so much for you're always such a brilliant speaker, Cormac. Always really up to date with the latest there. Cormac Smith, former communications advisor to the Foreign Minister of Ukraine.